Welcome, heathens and witches, to the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast Pub Chat. This is the Pub Chat version. Don't worry about it. I'm John Norgrove. This is Julie Norgrove. This is like the regular podcast, but the small Pub Chat form. I brought a beer, so it's officially pub.
And I have box wine.
It's not like I'm not literally drinking in every single one of these episodes, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I'm always drinking something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Water, beer, wine, sake, whiskey.
Sometimes it's tea.
Cheese.
No,
that'd be gross.
Yeah. I mean, like, you could drink, like, one of those yogurt drinks.
Ooh, those are not... I'm not a fan of those at all. We are immediately off to a bad start. If you're watching this on YouTube, please give us a like and a subscribe and leave a comment below with the things that we're going to ask you to comment about. Stay tuned. We'll ask you. Don't worry. It'll happen. And if you're listening to this on your podcast network of choice, you're hearing insanity. Welcome. Please leave us a review. That's the only way we can know that you listened. Because there are no analytics. It's all a lie.
There are two ways. It's that and us assigning random
if you leave
numbers.
a review, we may assign you a random listener number. So,
we are currently at 10.
Or maybe 11, or maybe 9. Honestly, it's like the Price is... That's not the Price is Right. It's like that one where the points don't matter. What game show is that from the 90s?
I think all game shows the points matter.
No. It's
that's Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Where the points don't matter. Yeah, it's all make believe. Nobody's gonna win and the points don't matter, but you can still get points anyway. So why not leave that review?
Yeah.
But okay, so we're gonna get right into it. Today's pub chat. The question that came to my mind is I wrote it down so I can frame it properly. Off the top of our heads, we didn't do no research or talk about this beforehand. What are our, like, not necessarily top 10, but like the 10 tips for baby witches.
Ooh,
right?
That's a good one.
And the reason why is because you're always seeing baby witches or whatever. I hate that term. But you're always seeing like baby witches or whatever on the internet being like, I'm just getting into this. What do I do? Or like, I'm new to this. Can I do this thing? Or whatever, right? So they're always, you're getting all these like baby witch questions, and I thought, you know what? Instead of trying to address individual baby witch questions, why don't we just kind of do like a list of 10? Everybody likes lists, right? I mean, whatever, analytics or some nonsense. But like, let's do a list of the 10 things that a baby witch needs to know, right? Or what have you.
All right.
And I'm going to start this list off with tip number 1 for baby witches. Stop calling yourself a baby witch. As soon as you do a little witchery, witch. Or heathen, or whatever your term is. Self-belittling, and I understand, if the term that you like to use is baby witch, do it. I'm literally always here to support that shit. But, if you're, new and simply inexperienced or don't know what's going on or whatever, that's fine. But I think oftentimes baby witch is bandied about as both the mark of a person who doesn't know and is inconfident in the act of not knowing, as well as it's just sort of I feel like sometimes it's used a bit derogatorily.
Yeah.
So just don't call yourself a baby witch, just call yourself a witch. And just be like a witch who's still learning stuff.
Yeah.
As an example, I have been practicing some form of heathenry, witchcraft, alternative religious shenanery for the most of my life. And I am literally every single day still learning new shit. So that never ends.
Yeah,
right?
Same.
A student. Be a student of magic, but you don't need to be an infant of magic.
Yeah. I mean, of course, if you want to call yourself a baby,
yeah, if that's the term that you're into
no
or
problems,
whatever, rock and roll, dog.
But
but don't think that it has to be your because dude, I've seen people online just be like, you're a baby witch until your first year of witchcraft, and you've gone through all of
that's just you've gone super through all arbitrary of the time frame.
It's so arbitrary.
You know what it is? It's gatekeeping.
It is,
and I'm not into that.
It is gatekeeping.
That is not a thing that I enjoy.
So number 1, don't call yourself a baby witch unless you want to be called that. And you're not a baby. You're just a student of magic.
Yeah, and also you can call yourself a variety of other cool things.
Yeah.
You could call yourself an apprentice or a novice.
Yeah, novice.
Or you could just
A novice witch sounds
call
fucking
yourself
tight,
a
too.
witch.
Yeah. Witch.
Yeah, because I am constantly learning about
Yeah, if
this
you're not
stuff.
learning new stuff, you either know everything already, what's up, come here, we can interview you, or you're confused. So, boom, number one, that. All right, what would be the second sort of tip for baby witches?
Trust your intuition.
Trust your intuition. I like that.
Trust your intuition, because one of the things that I see all the time
Trust in thyself.
is tell me what this means. Particularly talking about things like divination, like those egg divination spells, umancy,
And like
are like super common.
Tseomancy, you
And
see
also
that about.
for tarot cards,
And just like generally like seeing shit on the ground.
The thing that is one of the most difficult things that you can do in your practice is to trust your intuition. And I know for those 9 of you that do listen to us, like, you know that we say this all the time, but like, you have to continue to build on your intuition. You have to, is something a sign? I don't know. You're the one who knows. It's a thing that you saw. Is it a sign?
Yeah. If it feels signy, sign. If it doesn't feel so signy, not a sign. If it feels signy but you don't know what it is, read a book. Ask for help. Obviously, like, if you need help, ask for help or what have you. But like, if you're asking, is this a sign? Then like, you probably already think it's a sign. At which point, what could this sign mean? Much better question, right?
Yeah.
Frame that question in a way where you've already agreed to the belief structure that it is a sign, right?
Yeah.
This is like trust in your intuition, trust in thine self. Yeah. Is the way that I would say this. It's sort of like believe in yourself.
It helps to write stuff down, at least until you can start remembering and having those links.
I'm going to say this is number 3 right here. Write it down. You don't need to have like a fancy book. You can use the Notes app. I use my Notes app for cosplay projects, for literally designing and engineering like structures, like things that I need to build. I just write out how I want to build it. I write like my short stories in the app. I have a piece of software that's better than the Notes app, and I almost don't ever use it, and I just use the Notes app. But I also use the Notes app to write down tarot cards, or sometimes write it down also means you have a cell phone on you all the time. Just take a fucking picture of that stuff. Right? Like if I'm drawing like 9 tarot cards from like 5 different decks, it's too much writing. I know that that's lazy, and that's fine. It's too much writing, and I don't want to write all that down. So I will literally just take a picture of it, and that's it. In fact, most of the time when I'm taking a picture and like posting a picture of my tarot reading on Instagram, like in my stories, it's literally because, oh, hey, I just drew these cards, snap this photo, put the cards away because like I need this clean desk space to do whatever like stuff I'm doing for the day, and I'm gonna forget what cards I drew. Yeah, that's it. So I might as well take a picture of them, and if I'm gonna take a picture, like, make it a little stylish, throw a filter on that stuff, and like put that on Instagram, hashtag best witch life, So write it down. It does not have to be in like a grimoire or like some fancy shit like that. If you want to do that fancy shit, like, rock and roll. My handwriting is atrocious in the most profound sense. I have like the worst handwriting. I can read it, but I don't know that anybody else can, and it looks awful. And honestly, it's upsetting to me to write that bad. Yeah. But I'm also impatient. So I type it on my phone or take a picture of it. But like, write it down. When in doubt, write it down. If you definitely don't have doubt about it, write it down anyways. Just write it down. Right? Record that stuff, and that's just going to help you improve your knowledge. Plus, the act of learning to like read tarot cards and symbols and signs and things like that is improved through repetition. And part of that repetition is if you draw the card and you're like, this is the vibe I'm getting. And then you read the little booklet that came with your tarot deck and you're like, this is what this means. And then you write that down, you're reminding yourself, that's what this means. And then the next time you're like, I wonder what this means. You can go to this and be like, this is what this means. What's up? Right? Yeah. So you're like, it increases the number of times you're practicing.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
I
like write it
often
down.
go back to like old polls that I've done and been like, oh, that's what that
Totally.
meant.
Yeah, totally.
I thought it
Sometimes I
meant
write it
something
down, but
else in the
never wrote
beginning.
down the translation, and then like 2 weeks later, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I drew these cards. Dope.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I'll be like,
You know?
did I? And then I go back and look, and then I'm like, oh, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is what those cards meant. Good on
Yeah,
me, kind of
totally,
thing.
totally, totally.
And sometimes it's just like a picture in my camera roll, and like sometimes I have a grimoire that I'm like writing this stuff down
Oh my
in,
god, I've started
and
like 5 grimoires that
like
are all awful. I
physically,
give up
and
so rapidly.
sometimes it's a notes app in my phone, which is the thing that I'm probably the best at because like I mean, come on, we live in modern times. The phone is right there. It's always there.
Yeah.
So that's an easy way to do it, and then
And
I
I
can
don't know who
easily
these people
pull
are
it
who
up.
can open up a book and just like write in it. Like it's. I'm not. I
Well,
don't have
you know
that.
what?
I don't
That's
have that
perfect
superpower,
for
bro.
what I think should be the next one. Is it doesn't
Number
have to be a
4.
big deal.
Number 4.
Yeah.
Don't make it a big deal.
Magic doesn't have to be a big deal. Now, that
It
is
doesn't
to
always.
say,
Better way.
There are
Better way to rephrase this. It doesn't always have to be pomp and circumstance. Like it doesn't always have to be a big deal. It can be a big deal. You want to make a big deal out of it, make a big deal. You want to do a whole thing, do a whole thing. You want to throw a bunch of stuff in the fire and like dance around it and such like that, perfectly fine. You want to just like have dinner and like do a little meditation about some stuff, equally fine. Right?
yeah, because sometimes you'll do like really in-depth
That is number 4, right?
rituals.
Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes you'll do like really in-depth rituals and you'll like get all up in it. And sometimes I'm just like feeling a feeling in the car while I'm driving.
Yeah.
And I'm like calling forces and stuff.
Spontaneous match.
Yeah, sometimes it's a big deal, sometimes it's not. So you don't there's this sort of like conception, you know, especially when you look at like witchy memes, pagan memes, where it's like, you know, the one like, oh, me and my girlfriend like casting a spell, and it's the scene from like Bride of Chucky.
Yeah.
And she's got like all the candles and stuff, and sometimes that is absolutely the vibe, but it doesn't have to be the vibe all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, totally, totally. Sometimes the vibe is just like getting out the sketchbook and just like being like, I have this like idea for a thing, and sketching it. I have legit like been driving and been like, oh, I've got this great idea for like a thing, and then like a couple of days later, I'm like, I'm gonna sketch this thing out that I thought about. I'll tell you what. One time, this was like last fall, I think. I was like, I'm gonna like do this like big ritual, and I had this plan to like get out like I do like tie-dye and stuff, like to get out a bunch of like paints and like paint this like ritual cloth that I was gonna do this like practice on. I was gonna do this like ritual on that I had planned. I was gonna like paint a bunch of symbols on it and do this like big old thing about it. And I tried to like get everything prepared for this ritual, man, like 2-3 times. And just like didn't get to it, busy on the weekends, other stuff going on, whatever. When it finally came down to doing it, I drew the thing out that I wanted to draw out and all that kind of stuff. Just in I have like a little like 5x7 notepad that I like do art on, and I just did it on my little like 5x7 notepad. Just like sitting there like after dinner one night while we were like watching, I don't know, some anime or something on TV, like not nearly this whole like candles and smoke and shenan.
Yeah.
And like I've done the big old candles and smoke and shenan, and I have also done rituals on the hood of my Bronco.
Yeah.
You know? Like, wow, it's not too rainy and it's the middle of winter, so I'm just gonna do this ritual on the hood of the Bronco because I don't want to get my boots all muddy and such going out into the woods. You know, like
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
you know, so like you could just kind of do it, whatever. I mean, like my runes were carved on the hood of my Bronco.
Yeah.
My old Bronco.
Yeah.
So like, you know, like it doesn't always have to be the pomp and circumstance. Sometimes it can just be like whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I would say number 5 should be like sort of on that like in that vein is like find magic in the mundane.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right? Find magic in the mundane. If you're making dinner, you know what? Make your dinner magical or whatever. Like, you know what I really love to do? Let me tell you, super double secret. You want to make like you're having a salad for dinner a little bit more magical. When you're putting your dressing on there, put the dressing in the shape of a star or like a symbol of some sort.
I think that it's probably better to say it's like finding magic in everyday things.
Yeah, well, in the mundane things that you do.
Yes,
right.
but
In that boring thing that you always do, like one of like a big thing for me is numerology. I'm like a weird numbers person, and so like for me, a great example of this is that like if I'm slicing cucumber to put on a salad, I always slice like 5 cucumber coins and put it on the salad and like space them out evenly and then put everything else on there. Right. And it's because to me, like, that's the thing. Or when you're like stirring a sauce, like, oh, I'm going to be stirring a sauce up because I'm making spaghetti, like stir it clockwise, say a little something special over the sauce while you're stirring it. Or like if you're, if you're doing work, at a computer, and you're typing away and all this kind of stuff, have a notepad open that you can just sort of like alt tab over to, write down something interesting that you're thinking about that's magical. Or like, man, you know what I miss? I used to do all the time. I think it was in Windows 7, had sticky notes like that you could just like put all over your screen inside Windows.
Yeah.
And I would like write like little reminders, little like magical reminders on sticky notes and just put them around my screen. In real life, I would do this like after Windows 7 stopped being a thing. I literally like use sticky notes and like leave them around as just like little magical reminders. Like at my desk at the brewery before I left, I would like be like, oh man, like, I'm thinking of this symbol or whatever, and I'd like draw it on a sticky note and then just like put it at my desk. And then every time I look at it, it's like, oh yeah, boom, like, calm minds and steady hearts or whatever.
Well, I was trying to find this post, but I cannot find it, so I'm going to have to do my best to not butcher it. So I was reading a post on Reddit fairly recently, and this person was kind of like, I want to do, like, this person posted and was kind of like, I want to do magic every day. Like, what is your thing? And one person said, every day I drink tea, and that's part of my magical, like, ritual. And then she, I don't know if it was a she, this person went on to explain that the way that they look at it is the tea is of the earth, and the hot that makes the tea, like the heat of the water, is fire.
Sure.
And the
obviously tea has water in it. That's how tea is made.
Yeah.
So that's the water.
And then
the steam
air
off
is the
steam,
steam,
yeah.
the scent, and then the spirit is how it makes you feel.
Sure. Yeah.
And I thought that was so absolutely cool. I definitely thought that I took like a screenshot of that to save for later. Did not do such a thing.
Lies, don't worry.
So I don't know who that was. So I can't take credit for that, but I absolutely love that. So for me, I drink tea basically every day. Coffee gives me a stomachache. So
that's fine. I drink enough coffee for 5 or 8.
So I generally drink tea. It's kind of like whatever it is that I feel like, but oftentimes I'm putting extra. We buy our tea in bulk, right?
Yeah.
And I
we
sort of make my own blends
yeah.
of tea. So I add whatever it is that I think I need that day, either from like a magical perspective or like the heart wants what the heart wants.
Yeah, it's a flavor perspective.
Yeah. So all of those things. So tea is definitely one of those things. And I would love to say that I pull tarot cards every day, and I just do not.
Yeah.
So there are some stretches of time where I do every single day.
Totally.
And then sometimes where I do not pull a card for like 2 months.
Oh, bro, I haven't pulled tarot cards like since January.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my altar space is currently full of tools because right now my magical practice is constructing things. But again, that's that like I had to build some mechanical contrivances for our Etsy shop to sort of like increase efficiency and like make things run a little bit smoother. And so like instead of just like busting out the tools and just like going to town on it, I like made sure to draw plans, and like I had my tools like set on my altar the entire time, and like I did everything like with a handsaw and like hand pre-drilling everything with like a hand turn drill.
I mean, I know you're talking about why you didn't pull tarot cards, but what you're describing, and I know that I was
Well,
physically here for this.
This
is like a way that you can make an everyday
magical.
thing magical. Yeah.
Find magic in the mundane. Make the things that feel the least magical, that feel the most just like everyday practical, it's the little things that we always do, like, oh, I always, it's like every morning when I get up, I brew myself a pot of coffee. Well, like, that's ritual. That's the definition of ritual.
Yeah. Or if you have like jewelry or something that you always wear, you can enchant that.
A lucky tie. Well, and again, you don't even have to like if like a great example is like if you have like a lucky jewelry or like a thing that like brings you comfort. That's already magical. Right?
Yeah.
So simply appreciating the magic found in that mundane item is the like thing.
Yeah.
I
think the thing that I probably do every single day, because I don't even actually drink tea every single day, just like most days, but like I think the thing that I do every single day is I will spend just a few moments outside to just breathe in and sort of take in the beauty of the world around me.
Sure.
Just like a little tiny meditation break.
Micro meditations, moments of zen, I call these moments of zen. You get with practice, you can find moments of zen all the time, everywhere. And it doesn't need to be like, listen, it's going to start off with, like any sort of meditative practice. It starts off with like, it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything. And I'm just sitting here and twiddling my thumbs and I can't keep my mind from racing and all this kind of stuff. But it's because you're like trying to resist into meditation. You're trying to like resist consciousness to achieve meditation.
And also,
I like the statement, unask the question. It's like, don't force yourself to meditate. That's exactly the opposite of meditation.
Well, also, the more that you do that, the more that you meditate, the easier it becomes. And honestly, I have found that when I spend less time meditating, it is significantly harder for me to get in the zone.
AutoZone.
No. No, it is significantly harder for me to get like in the headspace for meditation when I do not do it often.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
You only, practice makes
exactly
perfect
you're rusty, and then like all the thoughts start creeping in. It's harder.
Yeah, totally. No, that's completely fair. I've been meditating for like the whole of my life, so this is one of those like practices that like comes naturally to me, which is why I find moments of zen so like peaceful, is because it's just like, I'm just gonna like fucking stare off into the void for 30 seconds because my brain hurts from thinking about trying to solve this problem, and just like I find a moment of zen and like achieve balance.
Yeah.
Hit 0, 0, 0, 0. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so sixth thing. Don't judge your practice by... Don't practice... How do I say this? It doesn't matter what other people think, is the way I want to say it, but I know that that's the wrong way to say it. It's like, don't practice because other people are saying this is the right way to practice.
Your practice is... your practice.
Yeah, well, don't measure your practice by other people's rulers.
You
know what I'm saying? Don't measure your practice by other people's rulers. Like, if a very, very good example of this is you have people ask fairly frequently, well, like, if I worship Aphrodite, a Greek deity, but I'm vibing with Thor, a Norse deity, like, is that okay? Yeah. Of course it's okay. What are you talking about, Willis?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just do your thing, right? Don't be judgy, which that's number 7. And I know that those are very similar, but like, don't measure your practice by other people's ruler, and don't be a judgy jerk. Period. And those seem simple on the surface to understand, but it's real easy to fall into especially with the internet and social media and like witch talk and like witchtagram and witch book. I don't know if Facebook has witchy stuff.
I'm sure it does. Yes.
It probably does.
Yeah.
I don't know. I use Facebook primarily for
pages
elder
to follow,
elder people in my family and Star Trek memes. That's really honestly all I use Facebook for. But like it's real easy when you're seeing like, because you'll see some person whose opinion on whatever particular witchy topic you're talking about makes a broad statement like make sure you're writing it down in your grimoire, and then all of a sudden you're starting to see a bunch of stuff where people are talking about grimoires, and you're just like, I'm just putting this shit in my notes app. Am I doing it wrong? Well, you're judging your practice by somebody else's ruler, right? If somebody else wants to do like a big fancy grimoire and everything's written nice and all this kind of stuff, that's gangster, right? And more power to them. Not my bag, right? Like for me, the way that I look at this, and this like don't judge your practice by other people's ruler. Part of it is that like don't conform to other people's ideas, and like who cares what other people think.
Well, but also,
another part of it is like some
practice...
shit you're just gonna do different. Oh, for me, the prime example is like art. I genuinely don't understand how somebody can draw a human face. It's kind of magic to me because I'm just like, I don't know how you did that. What is that? They're like, oh, you just like do this and you do this and like look at this perfectly shaded human eye, and I'm like, did I black out for a couple of minutes? What did you just do? I do not understand that. All art I do abstract art. I cannot do like shit that looks like shit that it's supposed to look like at all. It doesn't work right in my head, right? Unless I'm like directly looking at it constantly, and even then, most of the time it's like halfway through I kind of have to give up and go abstract
but like
again.
Everybody's practice is a little different.
Your practice is your own.
Your practice is your own, and you shouldn't force yourself to or expect others to practice in a way that like you shouldn't force people to do it. Yeah, you shouldn't force people to do it like you. And like if somebody does it different than you, of course we're not talking about instances of appropriation or anything like that. Hate stuff, not cool ever.
Right? Like if you're doing hate stuff or you're being hateful, like fuck you, you're being hateful. That's like a completely different thing.
But also,
and totally not what we're talking about. We're just talking about like, don't be a judgy jerk.
Yeah.
And if somebody's doing a thing, and the thing is that like if somebody's doing a thing and you're like, that's the thing that I want to do, then like do that thing, 100%, right? But like if you're doing a thing and then like you hear somebody saying like, well, if you worship Greek gods, then you couldn't worship Egyptian gods, or like if you worship, like if you are, whatever, I've had people before be like, well, if you have your own practice, you gotta like write down all the rules of your practice, which like that's not my vibe at all. That's like not my thing.
Or like if you're like seeing a video or something online and somebody's using like an old spaghetti jar that they haven't taken the label off for a jar spell, like you know what you don't need to do? Comment on that and be like, ew, couldn't even take that label off. Like that's just not cool.
Well, and you don't know the entire situation. Like one, maybe they couldn't take it off. Like maybe it's one of those labels that's just doesn't want to come off. Trust me, as a fan of beer labels, there have been a mini beer label where it's just like really, this shit ain't coming apart.
Point is,
but also like again, don't be a judgy jerk.
My point is don't be a judgy jerk. There's another human being on the other side of this.
Yeah.
Also, maybe they're doing spaghetti magic.
Yeah, you don't know what's going on here, bro. So like, I know that that's like kind of a twofer, but it's on the same vein, and I think that both statements need to be separate and equally stated, especially for new witches, is like, don't worry about what other people think about the shit that you're doing. Again, unless you're being like a hateful monster, then, fuck you or whatever. But also, like, don't be a judgy jerk to other people. If your practice differs from somebody else's practice, that's fine. Honestly, that's the way that it should be, right? If everybody's practicing a little bit different and talking about it with like open arms and like peacefully and with the intent of sharing and like, that sort of thing. It's that like, rising waters lift all boats kind of a thing. It's like if we're all working together to improve ourselves, right, then everybody gets improved because it's like, oh, hey, like you're practicing that way. Oh, that's cool. I practice this way. Like whatever. Like Julie and I practice incredibly differently. Like very, very differently, right? But like I had never done anything with tarot cards before you introduced me to tarot cards, and now I might actually have a tarot card based problem.
Well,
I have more decks of tarot cards than you do. Yes, in fact I do. And some of them are like weird, kitschy, like fun kind of decks, and some of them are like hand stamped on Italian paper, like very, very fancy tarot decks. Kickstarter is a dark place for me. But like, so yeah, just like don't be a judgy jerk or whatever.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about the tarot and the Kickstarter, and that reminds me. I think that, what are we at, number 9?
It's 8.
Number 8?
Yeah.
So number 8 is you don't have to buy everything.
Yeah. I would say, I was thinking about this.
Or rather, you don't have to spend a bunch of money to do witchy stuff.
You don't need fancy tools to do a thing, right? And honestly, this is one of those like find magic in mundane shit, right? I'm this way about like more than just magical tools. Like, it's nice having nice things. Don't get me wrong, right? Everybody loves nice things, but like an old cast iron skillet cooks just as good as that fancy new titanium stainless steel copper bottom skillet. Like, just take care when you're doing it, and you're still gonna produce a fantastic pan sauce and an amazing meal. Yeah, like to use like the food analogy, but like if like if you need, you gotta have this fancy, you gotta have these fancy candles to do this thing. You know what? Just a regular candle. A candle's a candle. Fire's fire. Water's water. Earth is earth. Wind is wind. And spirit's spirit. You know what I mean? So, like, intention is really the seat of magic, and the tools simply help guide our intention, right? Think of it like, what is it? Your symbol or whatever in, Inception. Everybody has their like
your totem.
Totem, thank you.
Yeah.
Everybody has their like totem in Inception. What the totem is doesn't matter, right? It is their totem that matters.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, also,
so it's like you don't have to have the big fancy, you don't gotta have a hand-hewn oaken one. Like, if that's what you want to do, like rock and roll. But you don't have this big fancy thing. If you can't draw, but like art is a thing that you want to work into your practice, well then just let your art be what your art is. If you can't have candles because of your living situation, you live in a place where like candles are like an unsafe or not smart thing, use an electric candle. Use one of them flickering like LED candles.
Yeah.
It's fine. It means the same thing.
You can
because it's just a totem. It's a representation that helps ground your intention into reality, or helps ground what you're trying to do essentially backwards into your memory, because like a spell is a spell, and a spell book is the place where you write your spells. But in reality, a spell book simply reminds you the path you have to take to accomplish the spell, and the spell is functionally a bunch of ingredients to help ratify your intentions. So in the grand scheme of things, this is something they talk about in like several fantasy books, where it's like you could just like think a spell, and that's good. You're still gonna get a spell, and of course you can like write it down, and you can use tools, and you can like do all this stuff, which helps sort of ground it further into reality. But like generally, your main character in your anime or in your novel often like doesn't have to do all the fancy hand symbols. They can do it without the hand symbols. I'm thinking like Full Metal Alchemist is a great example of that. Like, he doesn't have to do all the circles and the drawings and stuff because his intention is so profound, right? His character is so bold of intention and character that he's able to just like clap his hands. My arms are a circle. Bing, bang, boom. I'm doing magic now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, you don't always have to have the fanciest tool. You don't always have to have the gold-plated scepter.
Or Moldavite.
Or Moldavite. Yeah. You don't need unobtainium to accomplish this magic, dog.
You can use
pyrite works just as good.
Whatever works whatever works for what it is that you want. And sometimes it's a pretty rock that you found on the ground. Yeah.
Often you know what? I do a fair amount of like chaos magic, so that kind of like helps a bit there. But like my path to chaos magic was simply a function of me being like, well, I could care about what the what the meaning of this stone is, or I can just use amethyst because it's the pretty rock that's my favorite pretty rock, so I'm just gonna fucking use amethyst for everything, which is why we have like pounds of raw amethyst and like amethyst crystals fucking all over the place. It's just because like I love amethyst, so I don't care if it does or does not mean the thing that it's supposed to mean for this spell. I just want to I put amethyst in literally every spell jar I have ever made.
Yeah.
Regardless of the intention of that spell jar, I don't even know what the correspondences for amethyst are. at all. I just use it for everything. Because amethyst is my stone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right, number 9.
Number 9.
I got one if you need a minute.
Do another one, yeah.
Don't rule out the mundane. And that's why earlier I was saying every day as opposed to mundane. Because to me, mundane means stuff that is not explainable by magic. And what I mean by that is...
sure, I guess that could be what mundane
what I mean
means.
by that is, you have like some birds that like live in a tree above you and you found a feather on the ground. Is that a sign? Or is that just the birds dropping the feather on the ground? Going back to the trust your intuition one, like that's up to you to decide. But also, like, not everything is a sign.
Why can't it be both?
I mean, it could be both. But my point is not everything has magical meaning to it. You know, if you've had a string of bad luck recently, like we have a friend who's had a string of bad luck recently, and let me tell you what, it's not because she was hexed or cursed.
Yeah.
She just is having a string of bad luck.
Sometimes bad shit happen, bro.
Yeah.
Sometimes bad shit happen.
So never rule out mundane reasons for things. Never rule out the mundane.
Yeah, well, never rule out a mundane reason.
Yeah.
I think is definitely the right way to say that. Because, like, sometimes a magical thing is a magical thing. And sometimes, a great example. You got dogs in your house, and you, like, put a little bit of ritual offering on your altar, and you get up the next morning, and it's gone. Maybe magical stuff. Maybe your dog just got on the counter and ate that shit. Or, like, maybe, I put this rock on here, and it just falls off my altar every time I put it up there. Maybe your cat just especially likes knocking shit off.
Or you dropped your bracelet, and the beads broke. That's just because you dropped your bracelet.
I can't tell you how many times I have like torched necklaces because like strings break.
Yeah.
That's why my good Mjolnir is on paracord, the most dangerous way.
Yeah. Well,
you
like
could possibly
make a
necklace.
Which
is why I keep it so tight so it doesn't get caught on stuff. Because I work with power tools and on cars, and that's fucking dangerous.
Yeah. Well, I recently broke one of my favorite rings, and like that sucks, and we're gonna get it fixed. But to me, that doesn't mean that some sort of sign is happening.
Yeah.
Or some sort of thing is happening.
Maybe you just banged your hand into some shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like, sometimes magic, but sometimes shit just happens.
And knowing that is
chaos,
definitely part of
knowing is half the battle.
Knowing, trusting yourself in your intuition and writing it down. There's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Number 10.
Big number 10. Number 10 for baby witches, I think is, to quote a very, very popular book from the 90s, don't sweat the small stuff. Don't worry. Be patient. It takes time. You're not going to learn everything instantaneously. You're not going to fucking know it all. You're definitely going to learn. You're definitely going to, like, no matter what stage of practice you're in, there is something that you are actively doing right now in your practice that you are going to learn. Absurd. Yeah, absolutely silly. Do it a different way. Way easier.
Well,
right?
And
there's always like you're gonna be like I got this in lock. I'm ready to rock and roll, and then you're gonna like read a book, and it's just gonna like shatter your system, and you're gonna have to pick up the pieces and reassemble it and make a new system, and that new system is gonna improve because you have more knowledge. But like be patient. Don't sweat the small stuff. Don't worry about all the ins and outs. And you got like I got to know exactly what I'm doing. Earlier in what was it, late summer for us when we did the ritual with the family and everything.
Yeah.
And we had been like, normally we like write out the ritual we're gonna do, and we have like all this like planning and stuff, and this one Sabbath?
It was Samhain, yeah.
Yeah. This last Samhain, we were like, oh, we're gonna do all this, and we were just like busy and just never really got around to it. And like before we knew it, it was like the day of the Samhain party.
I definitely had my ritual done.
No,
but
I totally did
for
not.
some reason, it just like didn't.
It was just like
it
wasn't the thing that we wanted to do, and so we just like kind of wung it. For a lack of better words, we did it from the heart. Makes it sound way fancier.
Yeah.
Right? But we wung it. And we had people come up to us afterwards and were just like, that's way better. That was so good. It vibed with it 100%. It was fantastic. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so like And part of that don't sweat the small stuff is things like you've heard us say a million times. Like, hey, is bloody in bulk on a Tuesday? You work Tuesday. Do it Saturday, man. You don't need to do it on in bulk. Don't worry about that stuff. Oh, you need a red candle and the only candle you have is a blue candle? Well, just, you know what? Pull a Leo DiCaprio in in Romeo and Juliet and just write red on the side of the blue candle.
Yeah.
You know what? Good enough. Sometimes you got to make do with what you got. Well, sometimes shit happens and you just got to like kind of roll with it.
Yeah, well, and it's not just that. It's also like being patient. So like the first spell, is really the big one. The first spell you do might not work. The 50th spell, the 500th spell may not work, and that's fine. Yeah. But also it takes time. It takes time to learn how to meditate. It takes time to learn how to trust your intuition.
It takes time
to do that stuff. It takes time to feel like you know what you're doing, going back to the baby witch thing.
Yeah. To refine your practice.
And to feel like you got it. There's a lot of imposter syndrome sort of like in there, and infantilization of things, but also
infantilization.
Yes. And also like, just like not feeling like you know everything. And that's fine.
Yeah.
Because you'll never know everything, but you gotta operate off of what it is that you already know.
Yeah.
And you have to
let
base
it
like
build
that.
Stress. I mean, really the idea of like don't worry about it. Be chill. Right? Is the idea that like, I mean, if you're doing a thing where intention and like sort of like boldness of character, right, and like the power of intention is sort of the framework with which the power flows to enact some sort of a ritual or practice or magic or spellcraft or what have you, then like doubt weakens that structure. Doubt is the rust in the iron of intention.
Yeah.
Right? So like, that's fantastic. I just made that up. But like don't worry about it. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna screw stuff up. You're gonna agree or disagree about completely esoteric and non-important shit, and that's fine. There are gonna be people who disagree with the thing that you're doing. Whatever, ignore them. Right? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about this stuff. Because when you're worrying about it, you're adding unnecessary stress, and that stress, all it's gonna do is limit. We don't gain shit from stress. We limit. So instead of limiting, free yourself from the confines of stress and from worry with regard to your practice, which will help you learn to do that with the rest of your life as well, which is helpful, obviously. So that way like you can improve yourself and you're more willing to learn. Because if you're not worried about, like if you're not worrying about all these little details and you're not stressed out about, I gotta get this ritual done after I get home from work and feed the dogs and brush the carpet and start a whatever, like then I'm gonna be able to do this ritual, and now all of a sudden it's late and you're not able to do it and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, like, it's so easy, especially nowadays, to sort of like for the cart of time to sort of get out of your grasp, to like run away.
Yeah.
Right? And then all of a sudden it's like it's 11:30 at night and what are you going to do this thing? And we have to do this and we have to do this and we have to do this. And it's so easy to like let that stuff sort of like add negative to your life. And your practice should not add negative to your life. Right? It should be about self-improvement and adding positive. And one of the ways to do that is to not worry yourself about the practice itself. Right?
Yeah.
And I think about all these little examples that we have in our lives to like learn from. Right? Like right sword on a gun. Now all of a sudden it's a sword. Leo DiCaprio, best Romeo, right? Like that's absurd. That's so intrinsically absurd. But as soon as you start watching that movie, you're like, yes, 100% believe it, makes sense. Go ahead, whatever, don't care, right? You're just in, right? Yeah. And that's like good art just takes you away. Good practice, you're just in. You're in the flow of it. Be the water, right?
Yeah.
Flow with your intention, flow with your practice, and learn. You're going to run into stones sometimes, and just flow around that shit, right? And sometimes that stone is a person who disagrees with you, and sometimes that stone is a book that you read that you're just like, oh no, now I'm into this also, damn.
Yeah.
Right? And that's fine. Just kind of go with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's number 10.
Yeah.
And I think that obviously these are just off the top of our head. We
And I can think of so many.
I know, I'm already
tips.
thinking, like, do we want to do a bonus 11? No, we don't. No, we don't. We don't have time for that. We don't have time for that. But we can always do more if you guys have more. But that comes down to the question, what are your tips? You've heard our tips. If you agree with any of those, let us know. But if you have your own tip for baby witches, what's your tip? Leave that in the comment below. If you're a baby witch and you listen to this on the podcast network, on your podcast network, check out our YouTube video and see what people have commented down there, as well as in the description on YouTube, and I'll do it on the podcast as well. But it's just like more work to get to on a podcast. I'll write the list of these 10 things. We'll gussy it up so it sounds nicer than just the ramblings of insane people. But it happens. But yeah, I think that those are like good starter tips when you're like kind of new to a practice. We've been in it for a while. Obviously a while enough that we're like, this is our 3rd year of the podcast.
It is.
This is our 3rd year of a witchy podcast. That's so crazy, man.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's so crazy. And we're still learning stuff constantly. Right? And we're still improving, and we want this to be like a conversation and a community where we can all sort of like raise all boats. That's our goal here, is to raise all boats and practice together. And it doesn't have to be the same practice. We don't have to believe the same stuff. That's totally fine. In fact, I mean, the best form of practice is when everybody's doing something a little different.
Yeah.
And we're all improving, and we're all learning, and we're all sharing with good intention. And that leads us into a place where we can all sort of learn together. And if you disagree, you disagree. Who cares?
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. So, I think that's a good little list of 10.
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely.
So if you're new to all of this stuff, I hope that helped. If you're an old hat at it, what did you think? Do you disagree 100% with everything we just said? That's fine. Let us know. Totally. Yeah. Just let us know. It's not going to bug me at all. But, either way, I've been John Norgrove. Thank you for listening. This has been Julie. This has been the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast Pub Chat edition. And those were, 10 tips for baby witches. Novices in the craft, as it were. And we will catch you guys next time. Stay magical, folks.
Yeah, and don't forget, breathe in self-confidence and breathe out self-doubt.